Major Thorn Blackwood spat blood onto the moon's gray soil as he dragged himself from the smoking wreckage of the dropship. Behind him, Lieutenant Ash Kincaid was already securing their perimeter, rifle trained on the horizon of this godforsaken rock, Epsilon VI, which had just become their unwanted home. Comms, Thorn grunted, wiping his brow with a sleeve that came away grimy with hydraulic fluid and sweat. Dead as our prospects, sir. Ash's voice was calm despite the gash running along her jawline. Primary and backup systems fried, something about this moon's magnetic field, same thing that pulled us down. Thorn surveyed the desolate landscape. Jagged rock formations punctuated by crystalline structures that caught the distant sun's light, creating prism-like rainbows across the barren ground. Beautiful in its way, and completely uninhabited, or so the intel had claimed. Salvage what you can, he ordered. We've got 6 hours before nightfall and the temperature drops here could. Ash's rifle snapped up, training on a rock formation 30 meters east. Movement, sir. What emerged was nothing like the Krivax they'd been fighting for the past 3 years. This alien was smaller, with iridescent indigo skin that seemed to shimmer as it moved. Female, if Thorn remembered his xenobiology correctly. She carried no visible weapons, just what appeared to be a toolkit strapped across her slender frame. Don't move, Ash barked, her finger tensing on the trigger. The alien raised both four-fingered hands slowly, metallic eyes widening in what Thorn recognized as fear. A universal language. I am Vexara, she said, her translator device creating oddly musical tones beneath her words. Engineer of the Novali Accord, my vessel crashed 3 lunar cycles ago. She pointed to the human's wreckage. Same malfunction, same trap. Trap? Thorn exchanged glances with Ash. Vexara nodded, her movements bird-like and precise. This moon, it calls ships, pulls them down. She hesitated, then added with visible reluctance, I require assistance to leave. You require the same. I propose temporary cooperation. Ash snorted, the Novali are Krivax allies. Why would we? Because we're going to die here otherwise, Thorn interrupted, and I think she already would have called reinforcements if she could. He addressed Vexara directly. Why haven't you fixed your ship in 3 months? The alien engineer's facial ridges darkened in what might have been embarrassment. My equipment is insufficient, and, she paused, seeming to deliberate, there is danger beneath it, interferes. Beneath? Ash's voice was skeptical. Vexara knelt, placing a slender hand on the ground. An ancient machine, dormant but awakening, it pulls energy, metal, ships, it processes them, grows, soon it will have sufficient mass to, she made a gesture like an explosion. This sector will become void. Thorn had seen enough war to recognize truth and fear. The alien wasn't lying. And you know how to stop it, he asked. I know its architecture, my people. We adapted similar technology. Her voice carried shame. But I cannot reach its core alone. The defenses are, she shuddered visibly. So that's your proposal. Ash hadn't lowered her weapon. We help you disable this thing, then what? We all hold hands and fly away together. Vexara's metallic eyes narrowed. I dislike humans as you dislike Novali, but I prefer living. I have a functional engine core. You have navigation systems I lack. Together, escape is possible. Thorn reached over and gently pushed down the barrel of Ash's rifle. Stand down, Lieutenant. To Vexara, he said, show us your camp, we'll discuss terms. As they followed the alien across the crystalline landscape, Ash whispered, permission to speak freely, sir. This feels like a suicide pact. Thorn watched Vexara's slender form navigate the terrain with practiced grace. Maybe, but sometimes surviving means finding allies in unlikely places. She's not an ally, Ash insisted. She's Novali. They've supplied weapons that have killed thousands of our people. And we've killed thousands of theirs, Thorn replied quietly. But right now, she's just another engineer stranded on a rock that wants us dead. Focus on the mission, survive, stop whatever's down there, get home. The alien's shelter came into view, a cleverly modified escape pod nestled between rock formations, protected from the harsh elements. As they approached, Vexara turned, her expression unreadable but her posture rigid with tension. You should know, she said, that the machine below, it is of human design. From your war of expansion, my people merely improved upon it. Ash cursed under her breath, but Thorn just nodded. Then we all have something to answer for, let's get to work. Humans rely too heavily on brute strength, Vexara observed, watching Thorn struggle with the ancient door mechanism. 3 days of uneasy cooperation had established a working routine, if not trust. And Novali relied too heavily on criticism, Ash retorted, checking her tactical gear for the 4th time. She'd insisted on bringing all remaining ammunition despite Vexara's warnings about the machine's ability to absorb metal. The entrance to the subterranean complex had been hidden beneath crystalline formations that, according to Vexara, served as both camouflage and energy collectors. They now stood before a massive circular portal embedded in rock, its surface etched with symbols neither human recognized. Vexara gently pushed Thorn aside, her slender fingers dancing across the glyphs. These are navigation points, she explained. The machine's architects use stellar positioning for security protocols. Her metallic eyes narrowed in concentration. Epsilon constellation, third quadrant, there. The massive door shuddered, then began a grinding rotation. Ancient dust cascaded down as stale air rushed past them. That's impressive, Thorn admitted reluctantly. Engineering is understanding patterns, Vexara replied, her voice softening slightly. War taught my people to understand human patterns. And what patterns did you learn? Ash challenged, activating her helmet light as darkness yawned before them. That you fight hardest when cornered, that you value individual lives over collective success. Vexara's expression became unreadable, inefficient but occasionally effective. They descended in silence after that, following a spiraling ramp that plunged deep into the moon's core. Thorn led, with Vexara close behind providing guidance and Ash covering their rear. The walls around them pulsed with faint blue luminescence, growing brighter as they descended. These conduits are active, Vexara whispered, her hand hovering over but not touching the wall. The awakening has progressed further than I calculated. How much time do we have? Thorn asked. If current energy absorption rates continue, 17 hours until irreversible activation. Ash muttered a curse, and what happens then? The machine will consume this moon entirely, then emit seeker probes to nearby planets. They will establish new cores, replicate, consume, a cascade effect. Vexara's voice remained clinical, but her hands trembled. My homeworld is within range. So is Earth's Centauri colony, Thorn noted grimly. The ramp eventually opened into a vast chamber where crystalline formations hung from the ceiling like frozen lightning. At the center stood a control terminal, its design a bizarre hybrid of organic curves and mechanical precision. This is not original architecture, Vexara observed, approaching the terminal cautiously. My people's modifications are evident in the biometric interfaces. Your people helped build this abomination. Ash's hand instinctively tightened on her weapon. Not built, enhanced. Vexara's ridges darkened with what might have been shame. We discovered it dormant during early exploration. Our scientists believed they could harness its replication protocols for peaceful terraforming. Clearly that worked out great, Ash snapped. Enough, Lieutenant, Thorn intervened. Ancient history won't help us now. What's the next step, engineer? Vexara connected her toolkit to the terminal, holographic displays flaring to life around her. The core chamber lies 4 levels below, but the automated defense systems will activate once we... A reverberating alarm cut through her explanation. The chamber's exits suddenly sealed with transparent force barriers, and the floor beneath them began to retract, revealing a shimmering pool of metallic liquid. Move, Thorn shouted, grabbing Vexara's arm and pulling her toward higher ground as the pool expanded. Nanite solution, Vexara explained breathlessly as they scrambled up a crystalline formation. It will disassemble and absorb any technology it contacts. Ash had reached another outcropping but found herself separated from the others by the expanding pool. Any brilliant ideas? She called. Vexara studied the ceiling, then pulled a small device from her toolkit. Major, do your explosives remain functional? Thorn nodded, catching her meaning. Target the crystal junction points. Precisely, the resonance should temporarily disrupt the nanite cohesion. Working together, they placed charges at Vexara's indicated positions. As the nanite pool crept higher, threatening to engulf their precarious perches, Thorn initiated the detonation sequence. 3, 2, 1. The explosion was more controlled than Ash had expected, sending precise shockwaves through the crystal structures. The nanite pool convulsed, then suddenly solidified into a brittle metallic surface. Now, Vexara called, it will reactivate in 90 seconds. They raced across the frozen surface, reaching the far doorway just as the substance began to liquefy again behind them. Thorn worked the manual override Vexara indicated, and they collapsed into the next corridor as the door sealed behind them. In the dim emergency lighting, Ash studied the alien with new respect. That was quick thinking. Novali architecture relies on crystalline resonance, Vexara explained between labored breaths. Her normally iridescent skin had paled with exertion. I merely applied established principles. You saved our lives, Thorn stated simply, offering her a water container. Thank you. Vexara hesitated before accepting it, her fingers briefly brushing against his. The machine adapts to all tactics used against it. That solution will not work twice. Then we'll find new solutions, Thorn replied, his voice carrying unusual warmth. As they recovered, Ash noticed something interesting. The rigid posture Vexara had maintained since their meeting had softened slightly. And when she spoke again, the musical undertones of her translator seemed less mechanical, more natural. I did not expect humans to be so adaptable, she admitted. Our military briefings described you as rigid, predictable. Sounds like both sides got some bad intelligence, Thorn observed. Ash checked her equipment, finding her scanner damaged by proximity to the nanites. We're flying blind from here, she announced. Not blind, Vexara responded, removing a crystalline shard from her toolkit and offering it to Ash. This will interface with your device. It contains novelty military schematics of this facility. Ash blinked in surprise. That's classified information. Yes, Vexara agreed simply, but irrelevant if we all die here. As they prepared to continue deeper into the complex, Thorn noticed that the space between them had somehow diminished, both physically and otherwise. Survival was forging something unexpected in this unlikely trio. Not quite trust, not yet, but perhaps it's beginning. These markings weren't in your schematics, Thorn observed, tracing his fingers along a series of glyphs that lined the tunnel leading to the third level. 8 hours had passed since they'd begun their descent, tension gradually yielding to a fragile camaraderie forged in shared danger. Vexara tilted her head, studying the patterns with evident confusion. They are not novelty script nor human from any database I studied, her voice lowered. These are older. Older than both our civilizations. Ash knelt beside them, her tactical light illuminating symbols that seemed to shift subtly when viewed from different angles. Perhaps this machine was not originally human after all, Vexara suggested. Perhaps both our peoples merely inherited it. The implication hung heavy in the recycled air. If neither civilization had created this technology, then who or what had? Their path had grown increasingly treacherous, the facility's architecture becoming more organic as they descended. Walls pulsed with bioluminescent veins carrying what Vexara identified as data streams rather than energy, the machine's thoughts spreading throughout its body. The core chamber should be beyond this junction, Vexara announced as they reached a massive bulkhead. According to these readings, primary systems are at 84% activation. We have less than 6 hours. The door's locking mechanism, unlike previous barriers, was distinctly novelty in design. This requires genetic authentication, Vexara explained, placing her palm against a gelatinous pad. The surface rippled, then glowed green. Only novelty engineers of my clearance level can. The bulkhead slid open, revealing a vast hemispherical chamber dominated by a central column of swirling metallic particles suspended in an energy field. But what captured their attention was the figure standing before the control terminal, another novelty. Desmer, Vexara gasped, her normally musical voice sharp with shock. The other novelty turned, his more angular features and broader build marking him as male. His eyes widened briefly before narrowing in calculation. The missing technician survives, he remarked coldly. With human soldiers no less, how resourceful of you, Vexara. Thorn's weapon was instantly raised. Friend of yours. Senior Engineer Desmer, she replied stiffly. My former supervisor reported dead when our research vessel was attacked. Circumstances changed, Desmer replied with casual dismissal, as did priorities. Ash circled to establish crossfire positioning. You're activating the machine deliberately. Desmer's expression remained impassive, accelerating what was already inevitable. The human expansion must be contained. This technology offers perfect efficiency, no novelty lives risked, only automated consumption of human worlds. Vexara stepped forward, her posture radiating disbelief. This violates every protocol of the Engineering Accord. The High Council would never authorize. The Council sees only compromise and eventual defeat, Desmer cut her off. A privileged faction has authorized more decisive measures. You mean genocide, Thorn stated flatly. I mean survival, Desmer countered. Vexara, you've always shown promise despite your unfortunate empathy. Join me. These humans are inconsequential. Together, we can ensure the perpetuation of novelty civilization. For one terrible moment, silence filled the chamber. Thorn glanced at Vexara, unable to read her alien features, wondering if the fragile connection they'd built would shatter against the gravity of species loyalty. You are not authorized to make this decision, Vexara finally replied, her voice gaining strength with each word. And I cannot permit it. Desmer's expression hardened. Then you choose extinction alongside them. With blinding speed, he activated a control sequence. The chamber's exits sealed as a shrill alarm began pulsing. Core purge initiated, an automated voice announced. Chamber decontamination in 60 seconds. You doom yourself as well, Vexara challenged. Desmer tapped a medallion on his chest. Emergency extraction protocol, a privilege of rank you never achieved, he smiled coldly. Goodbye, Technician Vexara, your failure will be appropriately documented. A swirling vortex of energy began forming around him. Stop him, Ash shouted, firing at the teleportation field forming around Desmer. Her shots dissipated harmlessly in the energy barrier. Thorn rushed the console, attempting to abort the purge sequence, but the controls had locked. Decontamination in 45 seconds, the system announced as nozzles emerged from the walls, a faint mist beginning to form at their tips. Neural toxin, Vexara identified, already working frantically at a secondary panel, fatal to both our species. Desmer's form was becoming transparent as the extraction field intensified. The machine will consume this moon within hours, then replicate across the sector. The age of humanity ends today. Can you override it? Thorn asked Vexara urgently. Not remotely, the primary circuit must be severed manually. She pointed to a conduit running along the ceiling. There, but the toxin will reach lethal concentration before anyone could reach it. Ash assessed the situation with military precision. I've got the best jump height, cover me. Before either could object, she sprinted toward the wall, using a protruding console as a springboard to launch herself upward. Her fingers caught the edge of a maintenance crawlspace just as the first thick clouds of toxin began filling the lower portion of the chamber. Decontamination in 30 seconds, the system continued its emotionless countdown. From above, Ash called down which circuit. The crystalline node with amber illumination, Vexara guided, her voice strained as she worked to slow the toxin dispersal. But you must not sever it completely, a partial disconnect will trigger emergency protocols. Thorn watched as Desmer's extraction field reached critical brightness. Just before disappearing completely, the Novally engineer's eyes met his with cold triumph. Even if you survive this, Desmer's fatting voice echoed, the machine cannot be stopped without the master abort sequence, which dies with me. As his form vanished entirely, the toxin density increased dramatically. Thorn felt his throat burning, his vision beginning to blur. Beside him, Vexara was struggling to breathe, her iridescent skin taking on a grayish pallor. 15 seconds, the system announced. From above, Ash's voice came weak but determined, almost there. Thorn saw her reach for the circuit, then suddenly lose her grip as the toxin affected her coordination. She began to fall. Without hesitation, he launched himself toward her falling form, catching her even as the movement brought him directly into a concentrated stream of toxin. Pain erupted through his nervous system as he shielded Ash with his body. The circuit, he gasped, Vexara, can you? Through his rapidly dimming vision, he saw the Novally engineer using the last of her strength to climb the console, stretching toward the critical junction. Her slender fingers trembled as they wrapped around the amber node. For both our peoples, she whispered and twisted. A deafening alarm blared as emergency lights flashed red. Purge sequence interrupted, the system announced, initiating contamination removal. Powerful ventilation systems roared to life, sucking the toxic mist from the chamber. But for Thorn, relief came too late. He had absorbed a near-lethal dose protecting Ash. As darkness claimed his consciousness, the last thing he saw was Vexara's face hovering over his, her metallic eyes reflecting unexpected emotion as she pressed an emergency medkit against his throat. Stay with us, Major, her musical voice seemed to come from far away. We need you. What surprised him most wasn't her technical skill or quick thinking, it was the gentle touch of her hand against his face, and the realization that when she'd said we, she'd meant it. Thorn awoke to the soft hum of unfamiliar technology and the sensation of cool fingers against his forehead. He blinked slowly, the bioluminescent glow of their makeshift camp casting everything in ethereal blue light. They had retreated to a maintenance sublevel after the confrontation with Desmer, buying precious time to recover while the machine continued its inexorable awakening. He's conscious, Vexara announced, her voice carrying a note Thorn hadn't heard before relief. Ash moved into his field of vision, her face bearing new scratches alongside a cautious smile. Welcome back to the land of the living, sir, though I use that term loosely given our location. Thorn tried to sit up but found his body responding sluggishly. How long? 3 hours, 17 minutes, Vexara replied with characteristic precision. She carefully removed a cluster of crystalline medical devices from his neck and chest. The toxin damaged your peripheral nervous system. I administered novally regenerative compounds, but full recovery requires time we do not possess. Desmer, Thorn asked, memories flooding back. Gone, Ash confirmed grimly, and he wasn't lying about the abort sequence. Vexara's been trying to crack it, but the encryption changes dynamically, the novally engineer explained, frustration evident in her posture. Without the master key, our only remaining option is to destabilize the core physically. Thorn finally managed to sit up, wincing as sensation returned to his extremities in painful waves. Meaning we need to blow it up, Ash translated bluntly, which would be easier if we hadn't used most of our explosives earlier. We have insufficient materials for the required yield, Vexara added, and less than 3 hours remaining before critical activation. Thorn absorbed this information silently, watching how the other two moved around each other with newfound coordination. Something had changed during his unconsciousness. The invisible barrier between human and novally seemed thinner, more permeable. You saved my life, he said to Vexara. She paused in her work, metallic eyes meeting his. You would have done the same. 3 days ago you weren't so sure of that. A ripple of color passed through her iridescent skin, a novally expression he couldn't interpret. 3 days ago I was incorrect in many assumptions. Ash cleared her throat. While you were unconscious, we found something interesting. She handed him a small device recovered from their earlier battle. It's part of Desmer's personal log. Vexara managed to decrypt portions of it. Thorn activated the holographic display, watching as fragmented images appeared, classified military reports, technical schematics, and what appeared to be biological research data. He was not acting on behalf of any novally authority, Vexara explained quietly. He represented a rogue faction seeking to use this technology against both humans and moderate novally leadership. Thorn looked up sharply. He would use this against your own people. Those who favor peace with humanity, yes. Vexara's voice carried a weight of personal betrayal. Including my family line, we have advocated for negotiation since first contact. Ash sat beside them, her usual guardedness softened by exhaustion. We've been fighting the wrong battles. So often the case in war, Thorn agreed. He attempted to stand, gratefully accepting Vexara's support when his legs threatened to buckle. Let's reassess our options. As they gathered around the makeshift tactical display Ash had constructed, Thorn became acutely aware of how Vexara remained close to him, her arm occasionally brushing against his. Whether for his stability or her own comfort, the contact felt natural in a way that would have been unimaginable days earlier. The core's primary shielding is impenetrable with our current resources, Vexara explained, highlighting various sections of the schematic. However, the power regulation system has a vulnerability here. She indicated a junction where multiple conduits converged. If we could overload this node, the resulting cascade might destabilize the core sufficiently to trigger emergency shutdown. Might Ash questioned. 73.4% probability, Vexara specified. And the remaining percentage, Thorn asked. Vexara's expression remained neutral, but her voice softened. Catastrophic failure, the explosion would be considerable. Meaning we don't make it out, Ash clarified. A possibility I am prepared to accept, Vexara stated with quiet dignity. My people should not be defined by Desmer's actions. Silence fell over their small camp. In the dim blue light, surrounded by ancient technology awakening to threaten everything they knew, 3 very different lives converged on a singular truth. They had come to care what happened to each other. There's something else we could try, Thorn said after a long moment, but it would require all 3 of us working in perfect coordination. As he outlined his plan, Vexara's expression shifted from doubt to careful consideration. Ash ran the calculations, her tactical mind searching for flaws and contingencies. It could work, the lieutenant finally admitted, if Vexara can maintain the field coherence long enough. I can, the novally interrupted with unexpected firmness. But Major Blackwood's nervous system damage presents a significant variable. The timing must be precise to microseconds. Thorn met her concerned gaze steadily. Then you'll have to guide me. They spent the next hour in meticulous preparation, conserving energy and reconfiguring their limited equipment. As the deadline approached, a strange calm settled over them, the clarity that comes with accepting tremendous risk for worthy purpose. During a brief rest period, Thorn found Vexara sitting apart, her slender fingers tracing patterns in the dust that resembled the strange glyphs they'd encountered earlier. Meditation ritual, he asked, carefully lowering himself beside her. Memory preservation, she corrected. Novely tradition before potential final journeys. Thorn watched her skilled hands create the intricate patterns. What memories are you preserving? She hesitated, then admitted quietly, new ones. These past days, they have significance I did not anticipate. For what it's worth, Thorn offered, in all my years of service, I've rarely witnessed the kind of courage you've shown. Courage is not valued among Novely engineers, she replied. Precision, efficiency, loyalty to collective benefit, these are our highest virtues. And yet here you are, risking everything to save both our species. Perhaps I am simply a defective engineer, she suggested, but the musical lilt in her translator carried something like humor. Or perhaps you're exactly what both our peoples need more of, Thorn countered. In the silence that followed, Vexara's hand came to rest beside his, their fingers nearly touching. When she finally spoke, her voice carried new depths of emotion her translator struggled to convey. Among my people, there is no word for the connection formed through shared survival, she said. The closest concept is soul mirror, one who reflects truths you cannot see in yourself. Thorn found himself closing the small distance between their hands, his fingers gently covering hers. Her skin was cooler than human temperature, with a texture like polished silk. We have a simpler word, he said softly, friend. Vexara's iridescent skin rippled with colors he hadn't seen before, and when she turned to face him, the natural luminescence of her eyes seemed brighter. Is that what we have become? She asked. I think, Thorn replied carefully, we've become something neither of our languages quite has words for. When Ash found them later, they were sitting closer than military protocol or Novely social customs would normally permit, speaking quietly of worlds and lives that had seemed irreconcilably different just days before. She settled beside them without comment, completing their improbable circle as the machine beneath them continued its awakening countdown. Whatever tomorrow brought, they would face it not as representatives of opposed species, but as three beings who had discovered that connection transcends biology. And in that simple truth lay both their strength and their greatest hope for survival. They named it Sunrise Protocol, a term Vexara found poetically imprecise yet oddly fitting. If successful, they would indeed see another sunrise. If not, at least they would prevent eternal darkness for countless others. The core chamber pulsed with ominous energy as they made their final approach. The machine was now at 97% activation, its consciousness awakening with hungry purpose. What had once been separate technological components had fused into a singular, semi-organic entity that filled the vast chamber with writhing tendrils of metallic tissue. It's beautiful, Ash whispered despite herself, watching patterns of light race through the structure like neural impulses. In a terrifying way. The convergence of our civilization's worst instincts, Vexara observed, preservation through destruction. Thorn checked their makeshift equipment one final time, 30 minutes until full activation, let's move. Their plan required perfect synchronization. Ash would secure the upper level and establish their escape route. Thorn would place their reconfigured explosives at the three critical junctions, and Vexara would hack into the secondary control systems to temporarily disable the automated defenses. Each task impossible alone, together they had a chance. As they separated, Vexara caught Thorn's arm in an uncharacteristically impulsive gesture. The neural toxin residuals in your system, they will make precision difficult. I'll manage, he assured her. She pressed a small crystalline device into his palm. Place this against your neural stem. It will stabilize your synaptic responses for approximately 18 minutes. Will it harm him? Ash asked, concern evident. The opposite, it shares my neural patterns to supplement his. Vexara's voice carried subtle embarrassment. It is uncommonly personal technology reserved for family units. The significance wasn't lost on either human. Thorn applied the device, feeling immediate clarity sweep through his system, accompanied by a strange sense of connection, as if he could almost perceive Vexara's presence at the edges of his consciousness. I'll see you both at the extraction point, he said with forced confidence. 18 minutes. As they moved to their positions, the machine seemed to sense their purpose. Security protocols activated despite Vexara's countermeasures, sending mechanical sentinels skittering through the chamber like metallic insects. From her elevated position, Ash provided covering fire, her remaining ammunition carefully rationed to protect her companions below. Multiple hostiles approaching from the east quadrant. Thorn worked methodically despite the chaos, his movements guided by both military training and the strange neural harmony Vexara's device provided. He could sense her tension, her focus, as clearly as his own. When his hands trembled while placing the second charge, he felt a wave of steady calm flow through the connection, steadying him. Second junction secured, he reported, moving to final position. Vexara's voice came through their comms, strained but determined. Core temperature rising rapidly, activation accelerating beyond projected timelines. How long? Ash demanded, dispatching another sentinel with a precision shot. 12 minutes, possibly less. The machine, it's adaptive, learning from our resistance. Thorn reached the final junction, only to find it protected by a newly formed barrier of oscillating energy. Junction 3 is shielded. I can't place the charge. Through their neural link, he felt Vexara's quick analysis and growing concern. The shield harmonics rotate every 43 seconds. There will be a 3-second window when. An explosion rocked the upper level, cutting off her explanation. Ash's voice came through broken and pained. Multiple hostiles breached my position, still operational but pinned down. Thorn made a split-second decision. Vexara, help Ash, I'll handle the final charge. You cannot time it without the neural mathematics, she protested. Then talk me through it, he replied, already moving toward the pulsing shield. Keep the link active. Vexara reluctantly changed position, fighting her way to Ash's location. Through the neural connection, Thorn felt her heightened emotions, fear for her companions, determination, and something deeper she was struggling to contain. As she reached Ash, finding the lieutenant wounded but fighting, their comms filled with the sounds of intense combat. Together, the women created a defensive position, Vexara displaying unexpected tactical skill alongside Ash's military expertise. 28 seconds until harmonic shift, Vexara informed Thorn, her voice calm despite the chaos surrounding her. Feel the pattern through our connection. The mathematics are in the resonance. Thorn focused, allowing the alien neural patterns to guide his perception. The shield's energy oscillations suddenly became visible as mathematical sequences rather than just light and energy. He could sense the coming window, preparing himself for precise timing. 8 seconds, Vexara counted down, 7, 6. A sentinel drone detected his position, launching toward him with lethal intent. Incoming, Ash warned, unable to provide covering fire from her position. 3, 2, 1. The shield harmonics shifted, creating the promised opening. Thorn lunged forward, placing the charge even as the sentinel's metallic appendages tore into his side. Pain exploded through his nervous system, the neural link amplifying Vexara's distant gasp as she felt his agony through their connection. Charge placed, he grunted, dragging himself away from the reactivating shield. Initiating detonation sequence. The machine seemed to sense the threat, its entire structure convulsing as defense protocols escalated. Mechanical tendrils erupted from the walls, floor, and ceiling, converging on their positions with singular purpose. Extraction route compromised, Ash reported, her voice tight with pain and determination. We need an alternative. Through the neural link, Thorn felt Vexara's racing thoughts, her desperation giving way to sudden clarity. The teleportation node, she realized. Desmer's extraction point, it's still calibrated. Can you reactivate it? Thorn asked, fighting to remain conscious as blood soaked his uniform. Yes, but it requires direct interface at the primary terminal. Someone must remain to initiate the sequence. The implication hung heavy in their shared consciousness, a suicide mission. I'll do it, Thorn and Ash volunteered simultaneously. Neither of you possesses the necessary technical expertise, Vexara countered, her voice gentle but firm. And my neural capacity is already linked to the system through Major Blackwood. It must be me. Before either could protest, she added, this was always my responsibility. My people helped create this abomination. I must be the one to end it. Through their neural connection, Thorn felt her unwavering resolve alongside a complex tapestry of emotions. Regret for what might have been, joy for what had been discovered, and above all, a fierce protectiveness for the two humans who had become her unlikely family. Vexara, don't, Thorn began. 8 minutes to core activation, she interrupted. Ash, get the Major to the extraction point. I will initiate both the detonation and teleportation sequences remotely. As Ash helped Thorn toward the designated coordinates, he fought to maintain the neural connection with Vexara, unwilling to let her go. There must be another way, he insisted. Through their link, he felt her gentle reassurance. Sometimes, the highest form of engineering is knowing which component must be sacrificed for the system to survive. At the primary terminal, Vexara worked with preternatural speed, her fingers dancing across controls as the machine's defenses converged on her position. When a mechanical appendage pierced her shoulder, she didn't falter, channeling her pain away from the neural link to spare Thorn the experience. Teleportation sequence initiated, she announced. Charges armed, you have 30 seconds to reach extraction coordinates. Ash practically carried Thorn the final distance as the machine systems began catastrophic failure around them. The teleportation field shimmered into existence before them, their only escape route. Vexara, Thorn called through the comms, his voice breaking. The field can accommodate 3, there's still time. Through their fatting neural link, he felt her smile. Not all calculations have binary solutions, Major, her voice softened. Some problems require heart alongside mind. 20 seconds, Ash warned, the teleportation field stabilizing. In that moment, through their connection, Thorn shared a final, wordless communication with Vexara, emotions and memories flowing between them that transcended language and species. In those precious seconds, barriers of biology and culture dissolved completely, leaving only the pure understanding of two beings who had found unexpected home in each other's differences. Remember, Vexara said softly, what we discovered together was not impossible after all. The charges detonated simultaneously.